Yo, what's up, y'all? It's coming back here again today with another video. As you might know, in a couple of days is December 15th, and you might be saying, what's special about December 15th? And that is the day when players signed in this past offseason can be used in NBA trades. So that means the trade market is about to really pick up. There have been a lot of rumors recently, a lot of different guys, whether they've been in rumors for a long time or just recent rumors, seem to be available on the trade market. And so it seems like we're kind of heading for a really crazy and kind of hectic period up from December 15th to the trade deadline. And so before we get into any of the big moves, I wanted to kind of make some predictions and name some guys that I really think have a good shot of being traded before the trade deadline this season. So I made a list of 10 names. Not all of these guys will get traded. Probably less than half of them will, because that's just kind of the way the NBA goes. You hear rumors about one thing and then the exact opposite thing happens. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to bring up some hypotheticals. Maybe I'll talk about some teams that I kind of see each of these guys going to and why I think each guy may get moved. So I'll go ahead and get into it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let's see if we can hit 50 likes on this video. And if you make it to the end of the video, let me know what you thought about all of the proposals. So first guy that I do want to talk about is, of course, Ben Simmons. He's the guy that everyone's been talking about. Will he get traded? Will he play for the Sixers again? A bunch of different stuff. And I think he does get moved. I think there's been a lot of traction on a deal. A report came out earlier today from Shams in this big article where he detailed a couple of teams. There was the Cavaliers, the Knicks, the Pacers, the Lakers. I have no idea how they would get that done unless they trade Russell Westbrook for him. But it's interesting to think about. There are a bunch of different teams that are kind of looking at him. He's picking up steam, and I do think the Sixers want to capitalize. Tyrese Maxey has played well. Joel Embiid is as good as ever. Tobias Harris has been kind of up and down, so maybe he's another name that could get moved, but they've got a solid core, and I don't think they want to waste any more years of Embiid's prime. I think they find a pretty good trade partner over the course of this season, and Ben Simmons does finally get moved. He's been one of the guys that's been on the trade market for the longest, ever since early mid offseason last year. So hopefully there is a chance that he gets moved pretty soon, but we'll see. It's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna be for like a Damian Lillard. I think he could go for like a couple of solid pieces, maybe some of the Pacers guys, maybe to the Kings for a guy that I am going to mention later in this list, maybe to the Cavaliers for like a solid scorer. I would have said Colin Sexton, but the fact that he's out for most of the season makes me think that that trade's kind of dead. So we'll see where it goes, but I do think Ben Simmons ends up getting moved finally. Next guy I want to talk about is one of the Pacer guys, Domantas Sabonis. He is an all-star caliber player, and I think he is a guy that is going to be on the move. The Pacers seem to have realized that this is just not their year. This is not the core that they can build a championship team around, and so I do expect Sabonis to get moved. I think he'll have a ton of suitors. He's just a guy that can really help out any team, whether it's the Trailblazers trying to make a win-now move, whether it's a team like the Chicago Bulls that, now that Patrick Williams is out, are kind of looking for a power forward. Maybe they cash in a couple young pieces and go and get like a Sabonis to try and go all in on this year where it looks like they've got a lot of talent. Maybe you see something with the Mavericks. I'm sure the Lakers are going to get their name in there somehow, not that they really have the assets to trade for him, but I do think Sabonis ends up getting moved. I think the Pacers end up bottoming out. I'll talk about a couple more Pacer guys on this list, but Sabonis I think is going to be the first big domino to fall. He's the guy that is he's their best player, and once he goes, that team's going to get a lot worse, and then I expect the fire sale to kind of roll around. Third guy is the guy that comes up in pretty much every trade rumor because he's on a team that comes up in every trade rumor, and that's Talen Horton-Tucker. I think the Lakers do deal him at some point in this season. He can't be dealt for a little bit, I believe, but I do think he's a guy that is going to get dealt soon-ish, if not by the deadline. I think he gets dealt in the offseason. He is like their one and only young asset that they have, and I think putting him in a deal, making around $9 million alongside another contract like maybe Kendrick Nunn's $5 million, plus some first-round picks could maybe get them a decent player. I don't expect them to get an all-star or anything like that, but I could see them trying to put together a package maybe for like a Jerami Grant who's kind of come up. We'll talk about him a little bit later. So we'll see what the Lakers end up doing, but I do think Talen Horton-Tucker is their one trade piece. This team doesn't seem good enough at this point, so I really don't think they kind of just stick with it. I think they're going to make a move, and I think Talen Horton-Tucker is the piece they have to include to get any piece that's really going to help raise their ceiling. Fourth guy on my list is CJ McCollum. I think they finally break it up. I think Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, they just can't keep coexisting. You can't keep running this backcourt over and over and over again. It's not worked. It's not going to work. And I'm hoping that the Blazers figure that out at some point because I'm kind of sick of seeing the pairing. Now, there was a report that came out recently that The Trailblazers aren't open to dealing Damian Lillard at this point, which I think is lame. I think that is the move they should make, but I think they're going to end up dealing CJ, whether it's for like a solid wing, whether it's for a solid big, like a Domantas Sabonis, I'm not quite sure, but I do think they end up making the move. They've just got to shake something up. Something big has to change, whether it's trading CJ or trading Nurkic, but I do think CJ is a more valuable piece to a lot of teams, so I do think they'll go trade CJ. I don't think it's going to be for like a Ben Simmons or anything. I just don't think that makes sense for the Sixers, but I do think CJ ends up on the move before the deadline in a last-ditch effort to try and make this thing work with Damian Lillard before maybe he gets moved in the offseason. Next guy on my list at number 5 is Caris LeVert, another guy on the Pacers. There was a report that came out today specifically that Caris LeVert is a guy that's gaining a lot of traction. A lot of teams are interested in him, and it's not surprising to see why. He's a versatile wing. He can score the ball. He can D up on the other end. He does a little bit of everything, and I think he's a guy that a lot of contending teams would like to have. He can get you some buckets. He can play in a pretty solid role. He doesn't need the ball in his hands a lot. You can kind of play him in a couple different ways, and I think Caris LeVert, I almost said CJ McCollum again, could fit on a lot of teams, maybe like the 76ers, if the Sixers decide a Ben Simmons trade, where they get like LeVert and a couple other pieces from the Pacers. I think I would like him on any number of like maybe even the Lakers, the Clippers, maybe could try and make a move for him. I think there's a report that the Cavaliers were looking at Caris LeVert. I would like that a lot. A team that's in need of some scoring. There are a couple different teams that I think Caris LeVert could fit really well on, and I think some team is going to get out and snag him from the Pacers before the trade deadline. Number 6, I have Dennis Schroder, and this is an interesting one because he's not someone that was really on my radar until today, where a report came out once again from Shams, who said that apparently Dennis Schroder is someone that he expects to be traded before the deadline because the Celtics, while they're not kind of clicking right now, he's kind of played well, and he's kind of priced himself out of what they're able to pay him in the offseason. Because they signed him to a 1-year contract, they don't have his bird rights, so they can't go over the salary cap to retain him, so Schroeder's probably just going to walk. So I think it would make sense to deal him. Once again, I think he's the guy that ends up on a contender. I don't see any teams like that are lower tier going out to try to get a Dennis Schroder. I think he would be a good fit on like the Mavericks, a team that really needs another ball handler. Dennis Schroder could come in, play that 6-man role, him and Jalen Brunson in the backcourt, unless maybe they deal Jalen Brunson for a guy like Dennis Schroder to try and switch things up a little bit there. But I think Schroder is someone that could really fit well in like a Mavericks uniform. Of course, we've already seen the Lakers experiment happen. A team like the Sixers could really use Dennis Schroder as well. They really need more ball handlers without Ben Simmons, so maybe they could kind of buy low on Dennis Schroder, who's played well, but he's not making a lot of money, so maybe they could just throw a young piece to the Celtics that might have some higher upside to try and go for a guy like Dennis Schroder right now that could maybe help them win a little bit more. 7th on my list is Jerami Grant. I think he gets moved, and you might be a little bit concerned or not confused because he's hurt right now. And yeah, he's going to miss around 6 weeks or so, but there's plenty of time till the trade deadline. And even if he's hurt, he can get traded, and I do think he will. I think the Pistons, over the course of this time that he's out, are going to kind of realize that, or they should have already realized with him playing, that they're not good. They just aren't. And right now, Jerami Grant's value is probably at the highest it's going to be going forward. There are a lot of teams that could really use his services. The Trailblazers, the Sixers, like any number of contending teams. The Bulls, I think, are a team that would also love to have him. I think any team towards the top of their conference could really use a guy like Jerami Grant, and even some lower tier guys. Like I'm sure the Nuggets would love him back at some point. So there are a bunch of different teams I could see going out and getting him. I do think he ends up getting moved. I think they kind of just bought him out. With him being out for 6 weeks anyways, they're not making a push for the play-in at any point. I think they kind of just let him go, let Cade Cunningham really take over this team, and just tank for a bottom draft pick to really get this rebuild underway. Next up, I have Myles Turner at the 8 spot. These aren't ranked, by the way. I made a list like this a couple of days ago, and someone was like, oh, this guy should have been number 1. This is not ranked. This is just however I came up with the guys. Myles Turner at the number 8 spot. Once again, a player that a lot of teams want. He's a guy that has been on the trade market for a long time, kind of similar to a Ben Simmons, but even longer. He's just always been in trade talks because him and Sabonis have never quite fit the way that the Pacers envisioned them fitting together. And because of that, and because of his versatility, being able to block shots and shoot the 3 ball, he is a perfect guy for pretty much any team. I would love to see him on the Thunder. A team like the Raptors, who could really use a center, I think could even go out and trade for him. Any number of contending teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm sure would love to have a guy like him. I think Myles Turner does end up getting dealt. I'm not quite sure where he goes. The Knicks are another team that I think could be interesting, maybe if they trade a guy like Mitchell Robinson, who is making less money and maybe is someone that they could work to as kind of a project, just kind of try something out new there in Indiana. I think there's a lot of potential for Myles Turner to be moved to almost any of the 30 teams. So I'm excited to see where he goes. And with his versatility and just being one of the, like a perfect modern big, I think almost every single team is going to put a call into him before the deadline. So I would be surprised if he wasn't moved. At the number 9 spot is Cam Reddish. The Hawks kind of just have a lot of wings. They've got Bogdan Bogdanovic, they've got Kevin Huerter, they've got DeAndre Hunter, they've got Gallinari, and of course Cam Reddish. So they're right there alone. Those are 5 wings that all need playing time. And it's kind of created a little bit of a logjam. And I think Cam Reddish does seem like the odd guy out. All those other guys a little more consistent. DeAndre Hunter has really made some strides before kind of dealing with some injuries over the course of this season. Cam Reddish is having a good year. And because of that, I think they can get a pretty solid first round pick for him. He's a guy that I think a lot of rebuilding teams will kind of be looking at. Maybe a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think we could take a look at him. Maybe like a Detroit Pistons, maybe if they're willing to deal a Jerami Grant to the Hawks. I know he's another wing, but he's kind of a bigger wing, so he plays a little bit of different of a position. I think maybe they could deal him to the Hawks while the Hawks try and go all in, bring in another talent in Cam Reddish to play a wing position. Those are just a couple ideas that kind of came off the top of my head. I think Cam Reddish could really benefit any team, but if he does get dealt, I would more expect him to kind of go to a rebuilding team that's willing to kind of buy low on a guy that has some high potential. And finally, this is probably the one I'm most unsure about, but I kind of have this weird feeling. I have a weird feeling that De'Aaron Fox is going to be on the move. When you look at this Kings team, they keep trying the same thing over and over. They're kind of a weird version of the Trailblazers with a lot less success. De'Aaron Fox is good. He's a really solid player. But with him, with Rashawn Holmes, with Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, you have a decent team, and it just isn't coming together. You drafted 2 young guards in Davion Mitchell and Tyrese Halliburton in your last 2 drafts, which kind of makes it seem like you might be considering moving on from De'Aaron Fox. You've created a bit of a logjam there, and I think they could get a lot for De'Aaron